Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to give it a quick second, do some intros while everybody's joining the call. Super excited. Welcome to March. I can't believe we're already essentially halfway through March, if you can believe it. My name is Deanna Haas. I am the SVP of Agent Success for Sold.com. Excited to have Jarrod with us. Jarrod, I'm glad that we've had you multiple times now. So people are starting to become more familiar with everything that you've talked about. And we always get, return people that when they see their name, they know they want to come back and see you speak. So brief intro on Jarrod, just to kind of help everyone understand why what Jarrod talks about actually should be something that everybody's implementing into their everyday businesses. 30 years in the business, has had a team that he had, I'm going to make sure I said this right, 2 back-to-back billion-dollar years on that team. Am I right in that, Jarrod?
2 back-to-back billion-dollar years. That
is incredible. So when we say that Jarrod is somebody who you should pay attention to, listen to, it's not a joke, right? We're still at the very beginning of the year. If your business is not where you want it to be yet for this year, it's not too late. It really is just about implementation and having a game plan in place. So without further ado, Jarrod, I'm going to hand the microphone over to you. This is being recorded. And one other housekeeping item is we will be raffling off a free zip code at the end of the webinar. So stay tuned for that. We'll give you a little survey to answer, and then that survey answer will get you entered into our giveaway. So Jarrod, please take it away.
Love it. Thank you, Deanna. If you aren't where you kind of want to be or expect to be this year, like Deanna said, it is not too late for you to jump in. So I'm going to be sharing today, how to dominate listings for unstoppable results. And so I'm going to be going over, ultimately for you to not just take listings, but for you to sell listings. And across the country, I coach teams all across the country. And the reality of it is right now is we see inventory rising. The reality is listings are staying on the market longer, and we can fight it all we want. Is the number one driver that is keeping listings on the market is ultimately overpricing. And so I'm going to talk today a little bit, and I was on here before and we talked a little bit about getting more listings. Today, it's really going to be talking about, man, how do you get unstoppable results from the listings that you have, right? I really appreciate Sold.com for, being a company that really pushes education, being a company that really wants to contribute and give back. And ultimately, we know that who you partner with matters. And again, Sold.com, their goal is ultimately to help you drive inventory. And so the reality is, if you aren't looking at all opportunities right now of driving inventory, if you're looking at all opportunities to take more listings, then you're probably missing some opportunities, right? And so some of them, obviously we know the driver of most of our business is absolutely going to be sphere of influence. It is going to be, sphere of influence, past clients, friends, family, people we know, because they already trust and like us, right? And that's the reality. And then there's all these other opportunities, right? FSBOs, expireds. I mean, if you're not talking to some expireds right now, you're also missing the boat, right? And then there's ultimately other pillars such as Sold.com, where you're driving, leads in from other sources, truly things you really don't have to do a ton, to get paid lead sources, whatever that is. But you need to make sure that you're expanding your opportunity to take more listings. So let's kind of jump right into this. All right. So shared my screen. Obviously, I've been with Tom for 12, going on 13 years. I've been a coach for Tom for a very, very long time. And there we go. We know that in order for us to win in this business, one of the most important things that you should be focused in on is driving inventory. I always say, like, an agent with no listings is like a grocery store with no groceries. Like, that is the reality. Listings give you so much opportunity from a marketing perspective and a building time perspective, that if you aren't really focused on driving more listings into your pipeline, you're definitely not going to, win at the level that you could win at in today's market. Some of us even have the mindset of listings aren't selling. So listen, we don't want to get listings. They're not selling. And I'm going to share a secret with you. When agents say that to me, remember, for every buyer that you work with, you sold them a listing, right? And so we could tell ourselves that the reality is that that listings aren't selling. But the truth is, for every buyer that we work with, we're buying a listing. We should control that. Right? Now, today, we're going to talk about how to dominate listings for unstoppable results. We're going to discuss position, price, pivot, sold. Right? We're going to go through the whole thing. Man, listen, if we got listings, how do we get out the other end with making sure that we have a sold listing? Because that's what gets us paid. Matter of fact, if we look at, and again, I look at a lot of teams that drive a lot of listings can cost us money. Like, that is the reality. And if we don't position our listings to sell, and we aren't upfront, honest, strong enough as an agent to make sure that we're having the right conversations with our sellers, then ultimately we are costing ourselves money. So let's jump into why listings matter, right? Listings equals control of your time, pipeline, and brand. Right? Every listing gives you the opportunity to do, multiple marketing, gives you the opportunity to get out in front of people. It gives you an opportunity to build a stronger pipeline, because they say for every listing you take, and again, depends on what you listen to, but every listing you take, you get one buyer and maybe one referral, right? So it's ultimately, you can potentially get 3 deals, right? And listings allow you to control your time. Like a lot of agents, I started real estate as a part-time agent. And I was lucky at the very beginning. I got introduced to coaching. Matter of fact, I got introduced to Tom when Tom was with his dad. And, and Tom said to me, man, listen, if you are working a full-time job, you have one of 2 choices, right? Which is you have the choice of only doing things in the business that you can control your time on, or there's a good chance you aren't going to be able to hit the results that you expect in real estate, because, well, real estate requires time, effort, right? Requires us to put in 100%. And so I focused in on what controls my time. And so I focused in on generally just going out and learning how to take listings, which is not normal for a new agent. But what I knew is if I could make those communications, whether it's on the weekend or in the evening, or I can make my calls, then I can always control all the work in the evenings. And so I dominated listings from the very beginning of my career. Probably the biggest thing that I got out of it was the control of the time, right? Listings drive buyer leads and referrals. Obviously, we know that to be true. It's what we sell. So it's going to drive buyer leads. It's going to drive referrals. And listings you can scale, right? You can hold 20 listings at any given time, but trying to show 20 buyers. And so when I was saying like it controlled my time is, man, if I was to try to show 20 buyers and a full-time job, it is almost impossible. But I could hold multiple listings. I could hold 20 listings, and ultimately right now you probably need more than less, right? I could control my time, but yet be able to do the same amount of business ultimately by just keeping the listing machine running, right? All right, I went over this last time with you guys, and I want to talk a little bit about like what is the appointment listing game plan? Right? Like if we're looking at going on listing appointments, we want to make sure that we're doing it right. And so I'm just going to go over this really quickly because listings is as simple as looking at your conversion, getting better, and saying the right things. We're in a sales business. We have to learn the scripts, the dialogues. We have to learn exactly what we need to say in order to, get buyers to ultimately put offers on properties, sellers to agree to list with us. It is all in language. And if you go out and you wing it, which most agents do, you probably miss some really key important parts of gaining the trust of a seller, buyer, I don't care, right? Number 1, build rapport. Our job right out of the gate is to make them feel comfortable and engaged. Now, some of you may have heard like of the Ford model, family, occupation, recreations, dreams. And yeah, that's important. Ultimately, though, what I'm talking about here when building rapport is asking them a lot of questions specifically around what's driving them to want to sell, which means we're not starting going in selling ourselves. We're not going in and going, this is what we can do. What we want to do is we want to figure out and see if we can relate to what they're going through and what's driving them, their motivation, right? Their timeline, all of that. That is going to help them feel comfortable, right? Because they're now going to know that you know what they want, right? Number 2 is focus on their goals. We have to understand what they want, right? And when we look at the market that we're in right now, if we aren't clear what the seller wants, if we don't create clarity about what their expectation is, most of us will let them down. Not intentionally, but just simply we're letting them down because we're not giving them what they expect from us. And so if we don't understand what their goal is, if a seller says, listen, I need to sell as soon as possible, then that allows you to have a more serious conversation about what it is that's going to sell their home, right? If their kind of mindset is around, hey, we're not in any giant rush, it can change your conversation, right? Here's the truth. Even when you talk about their goals, they will ultimately talk about what it is that they want and expect from you, right? Want and expect from you. Number 3, identify their challenges. Our job ultimately is to solve their problem. Right? And so we want to uncover their pain points, uncover their struggles that they're going through right now and what they see as the struggle in order to get their home sold. And here's the truth. When we talk about, pricing it right, some of their struggles are going to be, we need to get this much out of our home. And it's more important that you know that up front so you can address that up front. Right? Or we need to get it sold in a certain time frame. And if you don't uncover those, things, then what you're presenting to them may not align. And if they don't align, there's a good chance you're not going to win. And it's not till number 4 that we're actually presenting our value. We're not presenting what we can do for them until we find out exactly what they need us to do. And then we use our value to help solve their challenges. Right? Because if you solve their challenges within your presentation, then you're already selling them the story that you can help them get their home sold. Ask for the close. As obvious as that is, you would be surprised of agents that go out on listing presentations, get to the end, and never ask for the listing. So in our listing presentations, we had 3 points at which we asked for the listing. Right? We asked for it as soon as we got in the door, right? We would go, hey, Mr. Seller, listen, we're excited to be here. Are you ready to get your home listed right now? We wanted to see their level, where they were from a mindset perspective. We wanted to see if they were prepared to rock and roll right out of the gate. Mostly because we didn't want to talk ourselves out of a listing. So if they were ready to roll, then we do it. And then we would go through half of the presentation for the most part. We'd ask them again. And then at the very end, we would ask them again. Our goal was to ask them. I used to do shadowing with some of the agents on my team, and you'd be surprised when I'd go out and they would go through, they do a phenomenal job at going through the listing presentation. Phenomenal. And I'd go, oh, man, I'm so proud of them. Look at them. They're doing what I tell them. They're doing a great job going through the 6 steps, blah, blah, blah. And then they'd get to the end and they'd stand up and hand them their business card and go, if you have any questions, give me a call. And then I just wanted to karate chop them in the jugular because they had it. They had it, but they weren't willing to just take that next step of asking for the close. Right?
That's such a good call out, Jarrod. And I feel like this is a good point to a lot of self-reflection sometimes is needed of how in the chat, how many people do that, recognize that they do that today, how many people know that they have done that today. And I feel like it's just good to do that temperature check for everybody. Because I think as soon as a lot of times as I've been in sales and worked with salespeople, a lot of people have that thought, like, not me. I don't do that. So
Yeah.
like, stop and take a second and be like, have you done that before? And this is where it is so easy to, right? We get so nervous about it, especially in sales, of like asking for the business, that we wind up going in way too soft because we don't want to scare them away. But then all that we've done is not positioned ourselves to earn the business at all.
You get what you ask for. And if you never ask for it, like you get if you say, hey, here's my business card. If you have any questions, give me a call. That's what you're going to get. They're going to go, okay, I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call if we have any questions.
Yeah. And I don't have questions.
I don't have any questions. So like, and so I can't say enough about number 5, ask for close. Even on buyers, I was speaking to a team earlier this week, and I was asking the team, like, when you show up for a buyer appointment, and I'll say that to all of you out there, because again, like Deanna said, look in the mirror and go, do I do that? When you're working with a buyer and they show up for you to show them homes out of the gate, do you say to them, hey, if we find the home that you're looking for today, are you ready today to put in an offer? And people say to me, oh, Jarrod, that sounds too salesy. And I go, but that's your job. Like your job is to help the buyer buy a home, right? And so if you're not asking that question, because that question alone, that single question alone, drives a full conversation around what happens next.
And it changes the whole mindset of that person. They don't feel like they're wasting your time. They know that you guys are both there for intention.
Yeah. And
with intention.
And then they get to the end of the showings, and most buyers agents, because they've never brought it up, all of a sudden get a little fearful or feel that they don't want to be too direct or too pushy to go, okay, we're going to put an offer in on one of these homes today. And so they don't even ask that. I used to call it the parking lot shuffle. I used to watch my agents come in the parking lot shuffle. The buyers would be kind of trying to get out. I'd see my agents talking to them, and I just want to open my window and go, ask them if they would like to come inside and put an offer in on one of the properties that we saw today. Like, that's all you got to do, right? So it's ask for the close when it comes to listings is the same thing, for sure. All right. 6, setting the next steps, right? Again, clarity is power in times when there is uncertainty. And listen, we're in an uncertain world right now. Matter of fact, when someone lists their home, don't you think that they don't know that, homes are sitting on the market a lot longer? Maybe they're not going to get what they want to get for it. And so if you don't drive clarity around what they should expect, what it looks like, what to expect over the next few days, right? Then ultimately they're flying blind, and nobody's comfortable flying blind, right? And so in order to build that trust, to build that level of comfort, to build that relationship, to build that rapport, you want them to understand exactly what that next step is going to be and what the launch plan looks like. So let me go into this really quickly. Discovery that sells. If you want to take a picture of this, I think Deanna's going to send out the slides, but it's just simply to understand, right? Goals. Where are you going, by when, and why? What has to be true in 60 days for this to be a win for you? If we're still on the market on day 45, what breaks financially, emotionally? What's the monthly cost to wait? Rank these: price, condition, terms, right? Risk check. What's the biggest fear in selling this home? What's your biggest fear? Right? Make sure that we're when we're doing our discovery, that we're just not sharing what we do, that we're doing a deep level discovery, because that is what builds trust. People hire us because they like us and trust us. The discovery part of any sort of listing presentation is what builds that trust so that they'll hire you. All right. Here's the truth. In today's market, we have to shift our mindset. Matter of fact, so many agents are going out right now on listing appointments, and they're just doing the same listing appointment, the same listing presentation that they've done for a billion years. And I'm going to tell you this: you have to shift what you do, what you say, how you present it in shifting markets, right? And in a market where, homes got listed, which, listen, let's be honest, we came out of it, and I know we've been out of it for a few years, but where we'd list a home and we'd, in 3 or 4 days, we'd get 8 to 10 offers. all was good, right? All was good. And then, we'd move on. But that's not today's market, right? So understanding that price is what converts interest into offers. If the price is off in today's market, everything else stalls. Everything else stalls. And so many agents are used to buying listings based on price. Matter of fact, here's the truth. We let sellers tell us what they should list their house for. And the sellers do not have the education or the knowledge or the info that we have. And so we've got to get really good on directing that and being clear with them why we're suggesting this price, right? Marketing is the bait, price is the hook. Marketing is the bait, price is the hook, right? If we don't price it right, timing and momentum are lost. There's that 14-day, right? Any listing is most active within the first 14 days. And so we have to explain to them what is important about the timing and, what is important about the timing and, losing momentum if we overprice it. Pricing in today's competition is very different because what happens 30, 60, 90 days ago is not necessarily what's happening now. We are in a price war and a beauty pageant, which is the nicest home for the least amount of money, which means you are up against the other competition, right? Or the test the market trap, right? I want to make sure that everybody on this call do not have the mindset of, well, let's just go ahead and test the market. Testing the market in today's world can mean the difference between your seller's home selling and it not selling, or ultimately sitting and selling for less. And we have to be strong enough to get them to understand that. And then being able to share reality versus hope, right? Reality versus hope. All of you would love to sell your listings for a higher price. Let's be honest. But if we become hope dealers, then at the end of the day, our listings expire. We waste our money, and the sellers get disappointed in us and don't reuse us or don't send us referrals. And so every time that you price a home and you overprice it, I want you to think about, am I risking future referrals by doing this? Right? Or how much am I investing in a listing right now? Am I throwing that money in the garbage? All right, here's where I want you to shift how you say things and how you position things. I'm going to go through the script, and I want you to think about how you explain it. But I'm going to go through the script so that you can hear it in a way of how you talk to a seller about positioning their home in the market. At the end of the day, there's 3 parties in every sale, right? When you have this conversation about the 3 parties, it creates alignment. At the end of the day, it removes blame, and ultimately it builds influence. Now, how many of you have taken a listing and you went back and you went, hey, we need to do a price reduction, and the seller was upset and blamed you? Well, you're the one who told us what to price it at. And you're like thinking back. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think I said that we list at this. I'm pretty sure I said we list at X. And you asked it if we could give it a try at Y. And I agreed to give it a try at Y. Right. So in a world where, listings sell quickly, it's easy for us to be able to do that. But in a world where we're not, we want to make sure that we're getting the seller engaged in the decisions and taking ownership, right? And that is as simple as 3 parties is the market. The market is made up of the economy, the interest rates, the competition, the seller, which is property condition, terms, list price, the agent, marketing plan, negotiations, contract to close. And so I'm going to go through kind of the script of what I would say to a seller. Hey, Mr. Seller, listen, I just want to for you to understand that for every sale of every home, there are 3 parties to every single transaction. The first party is actually the market. Now, the market is something that no one controls, right? You don't control it. I control it. We have to understand that rates change buying power. And when the economy shifts, confidence, uncertainty, and competition will reset your value all day long. Our job is to read and understand the market and adjust price and positioning before the market does it for you. And so the market makes up of the economy. And let's be honest, Mr. Seller, right now, affordability is a challenge for everyone. And so we have to recognize that that's nothing that we can do, but affordability, when things aren't affordable, people get nervous and scared. And so at the end of the day, that is the market that we're in. The market's interest rates. Now, here's the good news. Interest rates are good, right? We don't see an increase in interest rates. They've kind of leveled out. And so the truth is, it's good, but it's higher than what a buyer is used to. And so we're still battling that in our market, that a buyer thinks our interest rates today are high. And so when interest rates are where they are right now, we still deal with the same affordability issue as home values have gone up. And Mr. Seller, the last one is competition. Competition. We're in a beauty pageant and a price war. And your competition matters. When buyers are out looking at homes, they are comparing your house to other houses. And at the end of the day, you, me, we don't control what your neighbor lists for. We don't control what your seller lists for. And so therefore, at the end of the day, we have to align what we do based on the competition. Mr. Seller, the second party is you. You have 3 really important decisions to make. And ultimately, you are the controller and the deciding factor on these 3 decisions. It's your house. It starts with property condition. You choose the condition that we present your house in. Now, as an agent, I'm going to recommend things that we should do versus things that we probably shouldn't do. We have to present your market or present your house to the market in the best condition possible. The second decision you have to make is the terms of sale, right? You have to decide what the terms of sale is. You have to decide when you're ready to move. You have to decide if we're offering any sort of bonuses, any sort of incentives. You have to decide what you're willing to, pay other agents to help you sell your property. You have to make the decision when an offer comes in to say yes or no. It is really important that you are flexible in today's market and that at the end of the day, we look at your bottom line. The last decision you have to make is probably the most important decision that you have to make, which is the list price. This decision can make or break you. We are not in a market where we should risk testing the market. And in honesty, Mr. Seller, we're not in a market where we should leave much room for negotiations. If we want to sell your home, we have to get serious about listing your home at a price that drives buyers' interest so that we can get them in the house. And I'm going to review all of the competition so that you know what you're up against. And the third party is me. I'm the agent. Right now, I don't sell your home. I cause it to sell. Right? I am responsible to introduce it to the market. I have a whole strategy of how we, plan on marketing your home. That is what we are masters of. But you have to understand, marketing is the bait and price is the hook, which means we can market your property all day long. If it is not priced correctly, we will still lose. The second thing that I have to do is negotiate, right? My job is to help you get the best terms and make the most money. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to ask you, to give up certain things to get other things. But what it means is I'm a master in negotiations so that you know that I have your back all along the way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to always give you the answer that you want. Because my job is to help you sell the home. And the worst thing that we can do is get a bunch of offers that go nowhere. And then the last thing that my job is to make you comfortable all the way through the contract to close. We handle all of the things that will make it go smoothly so that at the end of the day, the offer that we agree to do closes on time for the right amount of money and that you don't have any headaches. Guys, by doing this, by going back and presenting it like that, you are presenting a very clear picture of what it is that you have to do, what is out of your control, but ultimately what it does is it creates buy-in from the seller. It gets the seller to understand exactly what their responsibility is in the listing process. Because if we don't present it this way in today's world, trust me, you will get the blame for it if it doesn't sell. You will get the blame for it if it doesn't sell. All right. We also want to make sure that in clarity right now, in today's market, that we have a game plan. Right? That we have a game plan that helps them understand how we're going to be successful. It helps us change our language when we can use success matrix. When we could say, hey, listen, this is how we're going to determine how your home is going to be in the market. You're not guessing, right? And a lot of agents are guessing. And so we want to make sure that the seller knows, man, there are certain things that we are going to track, measure, and I'm going to show you so that we can determine how we're doing in the market. Then you're going to set automatic adjustments up front. Automatic adjustments up front. There was an agent that she was always the number one agent. I was always the number two agent. She was much older than me. We sat down once, we were on the board together. We sat down for the first time and she shared with me how she wins. And I would go against her and go, oh yeah, this agent always overprices homes. I don't. I sell homes. That's why you see so many of more of her signs on lawns than you see mine. Is because we sell the listings. That was my story. And when she sat down at lunch with me, she said this to me. She said, well, here's the deal. It's the seller's home, and I feel that they should get a say in how we sell the home. Doesn't mean I don't give them the right advice. And she said, I know what you say. I know you go out and you tell people, you see all of my signs on lawns because, I sell homes, blah, blah, blah. And she said, here's the truth. I actually sell twice as many homes as you. And I do it because the relationships that I build with the seller, giving them a say in the process is important. But here's the important thing that I do is at every listing appointment, before I end the appointment, we set up automatic adjustments. We set automatic adjustments that happen automatically. And once we hit the mark where we need to be, we get offers in home sell. Not all of them, but most of them. And then we're going to discuss the seller 3 decision checkpoints, which is on day 10, day 21, day 31. It just levels up your communication with them throughout the process. And if they know it's coming, a matter of fact, I would encourage you to set them up front in advance, right? Here's your success matrix, right? It turns hope into decisions. right? So when the market speaks, that we act fast instead of arguing about it, right? Set the metrics now. So price changes are math, not emotion. Because when we go after price reductions, it is often about emotion. And when we mess up in the very beginning, all sellers feel like they're losing money. And that is not true, right? The sellers aren't losing money. We were never priced right from the get-go. And so we want to make sure that we're using numbers, using data, right? Remember, all decisions are made emotionally, but we still have to use, data so that we can show what results we're getting, right? Here's the expectation, Mr. Seller. We would like to see our first showing within 3 days. We'd actually love to have 12 showings in 10 days, or at least one showing a day. And if we don't have second showings by day 14, then we may have a problem. We are also going to be calling all agents that show our property to see if we can get positive agent feedback. We want to see what the other agents are saying about the listings that we have. If we do that, then we are setting up expectations of success. So if we don't get a showing within the first 3 days, the sellers now automatically go, oh, wait, we didn't get a showing within the first 3 days. Jarrod said that was normal. That was what we should be seeing, right? Or in 10 days, we look back and they didn't have 12, or that we're not seeing second showings. And if we're not seeing all of that, we typically have some agent feedback that we can give them. And if we use this, we're not now guessing. We're now showing sellers exactly what's happening with their listing and how buyers are seeing it and how agents are seeing it. Automatic adjustments. Automatic adjustments turn if into when. If we miss the target, we need to make a move, right? If we do automatic adjustments, it takes the emotion out of it. It just makes it part of the process. And so I want you to ask yourself, like, when you're going out on listings, do you set yourself up to win by already discussing it and setting expectations for it? Because you have to understand, small cuts, right? Small cuts is what they say. People, at the end of the day, you could die of all these small cuts, or you make a big cut in the very beginning, right? Decisive repositioning unlocks new buyers. If we're doing a few $1,000s over time, we tend not to unlock a new buyer field, right? Low views, no showings, 7 to 10% price reduction, and review competition, right? If you share that with the seller, yeah, that's a little bit scary. But it sets us up for win when we have to go back to have that conversation. If we got views and no showings, 5% price reduction, right? Low views, no showings means, man, we can market it all day long. There's something better out there that they're seeing. If we got views, but no showings, we're at least piquing interest. We're at least on the radar, and we might need just to adjust a little bit. If we have good showings, but no offers, right? Good showings, but no offers, it's probably 2 to 3% price reduction or buyer incentives, right? We know now buyers are seeing it. The truth at the very beginning, if we're getting no showings at all, the sellers need to understand that we're not at all even close to getting an offer. And so that's why we have to make more drastic moves, not little moves. But if we are getting showings, but we're not getting offers on the table, then we still want to do price reductions. And a lot of agents go, well, we're getting showings. It's just a matter of time. It may not be just a matter of time. It may be that someone else is beating you out every single time because they feel that they're getting a better deal somewhere else. Drop your price to encourage offers. And then there's the 3 decision checkpoints. Day 10 would be the launch review. How did we do in the launch? Right? Your scorecard, reviews, showings, second showings, offer, feedback. You should have a scorecard that is easy for you to take out and pop down and show the seller exactly what it is that's happening with their listing with data. Right? And a lot of us as agents, we are emotional creatures. A lot of the consumers are emotional creatures. But what makes us look as professionals and buys into that trust is that we can show people exactly what is going on. Right? So day 10, which is our launch review, you should set a meeting with them and be able to share in the first 10 days, this is what we saw. Day 21 is the momentum review. Most of your days on market, I'm assuming most of your days on market are probably 30 or more days. There's probably some areas in the States that it's less than that, but I'm going to say it's either that or more. And so day 21 tends to be where we're just getting momentum. Right? Where we're just getting momentum. And so we want to sit with them and share this is what's happened in the last 21 days. And the truth is on day 31, we need to be sitting with them from the stale listing prevention point. Right? Magic number is if your home is sitting on the market and it hasn't been on the average days on market, I wouldn't be panicking. But it is worth that conversation of going out and saying, hey, it's day 31. We haven't had any activity, blah, 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 blah. And listen, average days on market is 45 days. So we've got 15 more days to make sure that, we position your home in a place that we can get it sold. At every stage, day 10, day 21, day 30, review new competitions and pendings. I'll tell you why. Is because you as an agent, and if you're watching your listings as an agent, a smart agent keeps an eye on what's happening in the community that their listing is, or in the comparables of what they're listing. And often, if you list a home in an area, in a community, in a price point, and you're below someone else, that agent who is doing these meetings will see that and go, I just want to let you know, Mr. Seller, in the last 3 days, 2 more listings were launched on the market in your community. 2 of them have now been priced under where you were. When we launched this 10 days ago, your home was the lowest price home in the market and probably in one of the nicer conditions. But since then, we've now got 2 more because it happens quick. It happens quick. And if you don't do it every 10, 21, 31 days, before you know it, you're going to be at the bottom of the list. Right? Ultimately, at those points, they have a decision to make. They either hold fixed conditions or adjust price. And we've put that. And so you're going to review that every conversation with them. Hey, Mr. Seller, listen, remember in the very beginning, I talked about the 3 decisions that you need to make? And so at day 10, day 21, day 31, we're going to review those decisions. Because in order for us to get your home sold, we might have to change on some of those. So we're going to have to decide whether we hold where we are, whether maybe we fix some conditions if we've got feedback on that, or ultimately we adjust the price. Right? Every time. Again, here's the problem. It's not worth you remarketing the home or going crazy with marketing if the price adjustments you make are very small, mostly because you're not getting them into new windows or new price bands. If you make big enough adjustments, then it's easy for you to remarket it, to get it back out there, right? To call everyone that has seen it, right? So far this year, I've had 2 clients that have done reverse offers. If you've never heard of reverse offers or you've never done a reverse offer, I've had 2 clients that have that have gotten, lots of showings. They never got an offer, went to the seller, decided to drop the price. But before they dropped the price, they just went back to the people who showed interest in the home and called and said, if our sellers presented you with an offer, what would that offer have to look like in order for your buyer to accept? And the agent would often tell us. And then we go to our seller. We go, hey, Mr. Seller, listen, if we present them with this offer, there's a good chance that they could accept it. Would you be willing to do that? Right? Present it to the buyers. What do you got to lose? Right? What do you got to lose? Trust me, if you win, your seller's going to look at you like a rock star. Right? Here's the truth. So many of us get stuck in the just taking a listing. Just taking a listing. Right? If we are just taking listings, you are going to spend way too much money, not sell enough homes, and ultimately ruin your reputation as an agent to become an agent that doesn't sell homes. Be strong enough when you're out on a listing presentation. Be strong enough with a seller that we aren't taking listings where we're testing the market, that we're launching them out of the gate where you'll win, not where your sellers wish. And it starts with the initial conversation. We are in our business, we see it all the time that if you want to get listings, you just take it at whatever the seller says. Or, yeah, we'll give it a try. Or, yeah, we'll test it for 30 days. If you know they are not going to win, be a strong enough agent to tell them that. Right? I'm not saying don't take them if they whatever. I'm just saying make sure that the price that you give them, the strategy that you give them, that you're confident it will work. Right? Sit inside the right price bands. Do your research. Right? As you do price reductions, look at the price brands that are moving, because we want new buyer pools to see your listing all the time. And so make sure you're doing your homework, that you're not just randomly going, hey, let's just drop it 5,000, that you can sit there with the seller and go, Mr. Seller, listen, I think that I know we agreed to drop it by X, but I was looking at the market, and if we drop it to Y, it puts us inside a whole different price band. And that now puts us in a position where you're the nicest home, in that market, in that price band. And ultimately we're introducing this to new buyers. I think that would be a win. Be educated enough for your sellers to approach it that way. If the metrics miss, move once, meaningfully. Not 1% nibbles. Nibbles will not get it sold. Right? Again, practice scripts and dialogues of being able to be strong enough with the seller and go, Mr. Seller, listen, I definitely understand that your goal is to get the most money. And you think by dropping it by a few thousand at a time is going to get us what we want. Unfortunately, in the market, that can actually go against you. And so what I'm going to suggest you do is, rather than do it like that, I would just love for you to swallow what we're going to have to do and get it and get that move down so that ultimately we get buyers in your house. I'm not concerned that we're going to drop it too much, that you're going to lose money. The reality is, if we actually drop it where buyers see it's a deal in this market, you can still see multiple offers and homes selling for over asking. It's just rare, but it happens with sellers who are serious about selling their home, because most sellers aren't. Right? Being strong enough to express that to them. And the last thing is, man, listen, if you got your sellers go ahead to drop it drastically, make sure you're willing to relaunch it loud, that you're willing to put it back out there, right? You're willing to reach out to all the agents that have shown it to see if they have the buyer that was still interested. Make sure you're willing to do the work if the seller is willing to make the commitment to get their home sold. Guys, we are not in a market for us just to take listings. We are in a market for us to sell listings. And so, guys, if you want to scan the QR code, there's free tools, resources, all that kind of stuff for agents on on Tom's site. You can scan that if you wanted to go look at the tools. I can't express enough that in a market where you need to drive inventory in order to win, which means if you took 20 listings 2 years ago and sold 18 of them, you might need to take 30 this year, right? You need to partner with people that are going to help you drive listings.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even going back one step further than that is how are you going to position yourself for that, right? Because if it's taking longer for houses to sell, or if it's harder for houses to sell, it's also harder to get the listing in the first place. So it's, as you were saying, like if you held this amount and you knew that in order to convert this, you needed to get this amount, the same thing happens with the top of the funnel, right? Yep. It's a harder market, even from your lead generation, your sphere of influence, or whatever you're doing. You have to talk to more people in order to even have more or even to have the conversation. Yeah. I think that's an important talk track too, because we can have all of these great tips and tools, but if you aren't in a position to have these conversations, then there isn't anything to do with them.
On my board over here, my whiteboard is what I talked this morning about a team is all of our business, whether in real, I don't care, all of our business in real estate, listing side, buy side, I don't care if you're in mortgage, it's more conversations leads to appointments set, leads to appointments met, leads to contracts written. If you don't know your conversion on that, which is, here's the truth, agents' conversion on appointments, a listing appointments gone on to a listings taken is down, right? The conversion from listings taken to listings selling is down. And if our conversations aren't drastically up with people who want to sell homes, then there's no way we're going to win.
Right.
No way we're going to set appointments enough.
And I think the key factor is for everybody to walk away with is it doesn't just mean we concede to like, well, this will just be a slow year, right? Like that's not why we got into this business. That's not why each of you guys are on this call. That's not why you guys are in the sold.com network. Like you guys are all in this business because you want to continuously do better. If you are that person that's like, well, I guess we'll just check out on 2026 and I'll figure out what to do on the side. Like you may want to make some second guesses on maybe what the career path is, right? It takes motivation every single day. And some years are going to be harder. Some months are going to be harder. Some days are going to be harder. And it's just what you do with it. So it's easier said than done, right? With all things, don't lose your motivation because you know what you want to accomplish. And again, sometimes it's going to be harder, but at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it. So maybe this year it takes you working twice as hard to accomplish what you did in 2021. But that's what you signed up for in this business, right? Like when you think about those top producers in whether it be in just in your general market or just the top 1% of agents in the country, they didn't just get lucky. Let's put it that way, right? Like they are working harder and harder and harder every single year, every single day to figure out what they're going to do differently. And as you were talking about, Jarrod, a lot of that starts with talk tracks. A lot of that starts with like, don't wing this business. It starts with talk tracks, not only from the time of you going into that person's house, but starts far beyond that when you're calling your leads and everything. I always do a brief summary on the sold.com stuff, and I want to do that. And again, we're going to be raffling off a free featured profile for a year. So I'll do that in a second. But I think as we talk about talk tracks, that's typically where, whether it's sold.com, I've been in the lead generation space for a long time. Jarrod, you obviously have been in this space and led teams and coached many agents, but so many people are so quick to deem the lead bad versus thinking about what did they potentially do that caused that lead to go or that conversation to go awry, right? We talked about at the beginning of the call, like look in the mirror. And am I saying that sold.com leads, Zillow leads, realtor leads, Google leads, that all of them are gold? Absolutely not. If they were, Sold.com would start a brokerage and start working those leads themselves, right? If every single person we were calling. But it does take having the right talk tracks in place. So one of the things that's, I think, unique about Sold.com is we do set appointments for you. That is a super rare thing in this lead generation space, and probably one of the hardest things for an agent to do for themselves is, one of them is getting the person on the phone, but then it's, do you talk yourself out of an appointment too, right? Like, are you on the phone with them and you're just getting informational and you don't know how to close that call into an appointment, right? So first step of being able to use all these amazing tips from Jarrod is getting in front of more people. And so Sold.com generates the lead. We have a concierge team that's calling the lead and setting up the appointment for you. And then the biggest questions that come in after that, well, great, how do you guys assign appointments? Because there's plenty of people who are like, well, I've been in your network and I haven't received anything from you. So I have an example on the screen of a real zip code and real placement of agent in 60467. So if you happen to be in that area, this is what that rank placement looks like. If a consumer comes through our site and our concierge team calls them, we are going to get an appointment with that client. And then now this is a snapshot of a few of the agents that have that zip code on their profile for free, right? They're not paying us a penny up front. Success-based is a core product. So they've all said, I would love to get an appointment in 60467. That's a toughie for me. Now, once we get the appointment, how we start to say who's going to get this is based off of how you guys are ranked in our system. And so we have organic ranking that takes into consideration your MLS, your performance, if you've converted Sold.com stuff, because from a business perspective, we want to give the lead to the person as the highest potential to convert it, right? But then what we also offer is the potential to feature your profile. So what that does is it takes your profile and it puts it at the top. No different than what a lot of websites do, right? Yelp, if you have a restaurant, you can pay to have your profile featured at the very top so that your restaurant shows up first to consumers. Google, you have a website just similar to what you guys have. You can be on the last page of Google, but people aren't probably going to find it, right? You've got to be at the top of that. And that's where that featured profile, sponsored profiles come into play. So somebody like Steve is somebody who is always at the top of that list. And what happens is every time we get an appointment there, Steve is the first person we're going to and saying, Steve, do you want this appointment? And unless Steve's busy, he's taken the appointment, right? The other benefits that Steve gets as somebody who is a featured agent and features his profile is he unlocks non-appointment leads, because transparently, not every single agent is going to, consumer is going to answer the phone. So when we don't get an appointment or we don't get an answer from that consumer we called, we then give you that lead and say, Steve, have at it. We weren't able to get them on the phone, but we're going to still keep trying, but now you try too. If Steve calls that client and gets an appointment on his own and winds up listing that client, we waive all of our referral fees off of that because Steve did all the heavy lifting. We generated the lead, we handed it off to Steve as the featured agent, and then he got that from us. We also give transparency into lead volume, which I think is probably one of the biggest questions that we get as a lead generation space is, well, how many leads can I expect? And most companies are like, well, it depends on this and this and this. We don't give you it depends. When you talk to our team, we can tell you exactly how many consumers are coming to the site in the zip codes that you're looking to feature. And so you can have predictable volume. And then it just comes down to, what are you going to do to close those things? Host or coming on these calls and learning on different coaching topics. If you guys missed our Jeff Mays webinar last month, he talked a lot about how to get appointments. That's in our event center in our portal. And then now couple that with what Jarrod talked about today, right? Now you have the winning combination to everything. But it all starts with the top of the funnel. It all starts with, how do you get in front of more people? How do you start talking to more people? And then now, how do you actually implement all the amazing things that you're learning from each one of these webinars? So we are going to be raffling off a free featured profile for the year. If you are somebody who also wants to learn about that and purchase a featured profile, to purchase or to feature your profile, we are giving 45% off all of our zip codes today. So any zip code that you're looking at, you get 45% off for the entire year on all of your zip codes. that brings some of the zip codes down to like, I think if I remember right, $680 a year for an entire year of your profile being featured with, again, transparent volume. So I will send all that stuff over to, or you guys, if you guys have interest, I clicked on I popped up a little link for you guys to utilize. The next thing I'm going to pop up is our raffle. So I want to be able to give you guys a free zip code for the year. And how you guys will take advantage of that is by answering a poll. So I just popped that up. You might have to click on the polls section of the webinar. And once you click on polls, you'll see it says, how interested are you in featuring yourself in a sold.com zip code? You could put not interested, and that would still enter you in the poll. So all you have to do is fill out that poll response. That will enter you in the raffle. I'll give everybody a minute or so to answer those questions, and then I will do the raffle from there. And again, that'll give you a free year off of that. But as people are filling out that poll response, Jarrod, I think the biggest thing is just, again, remembering like talk tracks, right? Like what has been the biggest tip for you in telling people like cadence of calling leads when they get them? Because I feel like that's probably a big hurdle too, and probably a big question you get.
Well, so I did a study for some of my clients this past year, because coming into this, I wanted to see how to solve their problems. Here was the biggest struggle that I found. Agents that got leads in called them 2 to 3 times in the first 2 to 3 days, and then nothing. Right. And so you say not all of these leads are gold. And I'd say, here's the deal. If they own a house, they want to buy a house at some point, or if, then at the end of the day, that is a gold lead. The difference between that lead is now or later, right? Now, because eventually that's going to happen now or later with any of them. And so if you don't have a short-term nurture or a long-term nurture plan with them, then you can't expect to get anything out of it. And so, we follow with any lead that comes in at 10 days of pain. And so if you aren't calling them 10 days, and I think there's a stat that says that 80% of sales are made after the 10th contact or 8th contact or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's the 10th.
10th contact. And so most of our agents aren't even doing 2 or 3. So therefore they're missing most of the opportunity that's there short term, and then long term, because people will use you if you're seen, right? Or if they hear from you. And if you get this lead in and you never talk to it again and never send it anything, of course it's a bad lead. But it's not the lead that's bad. It's your follow-up and nurture that's bad. And so if you don't have structure behind your follow-up, which I'm sure Jeff went into on the last call, because that's kind of where he's a master. Like if you don't have that long-term nurture follow-up, then it's the same with your sphere of influence. If you never call or talk to them, you're never going to get business from them either.
Yeah, so Jeff has a line that I love. It's leads get better when you do.
There you go.
So simple, right?
Yep.
And so as we think about that, like look in the mirror moment, I would challenge everybody to be super honest in the chat and put how many times do you call your leads? If you got a new lead, how many times are you calling that client? It's a great honesty moment, put it all out there, but not as a show of weakness, of just a show of I can do better. And there's more things that you could be doing, because in reality, I think that are there bad lead sources out there? I'm sure. But at the end of the day, it's how you work them, right? You have to put in the time and the effort into them. Nothing's a magic pill. I can't have a gym membership and just expect them to reach all my fitness goals. I can't eat one salad, and as much as I hope it happens, that I'm going to reach my weight loss goals. Everything takes work, and it just is more effort that you put in, the more that you're going to get out of it. I'm sharing our back end screen because what I want to show is, if I can hide this little window, our raffle. So I'm going to click off our raffle, and it gives, whoops, that's not the button I wanted it to do. Give me a second, guys. Here we go. I'm going to spin this wheel. Anybody who filled in the survey is going to automatically get entered into that. And we are going to start with it, and it'll pop up our raffle winner, and we will reach out to you at the end of this call. And slowly but surely it'll pop it up. And it is Ash Gupta. You have won a year of a free featured zip code. So our team will reach out to you, get that zip code from you. any agents who inquired about featuring their profiles on sold.com, we will reach out to you from a 949 number and go through everything with you and get you all set up. That 45% promo does end of business day tomorrow. So if in the event that that's something that you want to take advantage of and featuring your profile, please do. I'm going to pop that link up into the chat as well so that you guys have it. I appreciate everyone's honesty for those who did put in their times of calling them. And a lot of people did put 5, right? And some people just put not enough. So I think big key takeaways is, Jarrod, you went through a ton of amazing things, but in order to get to the position where you can have those conversations, it starts with building your pipeline, talking to more people, asking for the appointments when you have them, or utilizing something like sold.com's featured program where we can get those appointments and things like that for you.
For sure.
Jarrod, any leaving notes before I let everybody go?
Guys, you get what you focus on. If you're not spending time looking for listings, they're not going to come to you.
Yep, agreed. It's not too late. I know it's already March, but it's only March, right? Yes. You can turn this year around super, super quickly. Thank you guys again for joining us. I will see you on our April webinar, and I look forward to seeing all the successes that you guys have. Thanks, everyone.